Structure and movement, lesson number 2. Today I'm going to be talking about what the feet do, how to step, where to put your feet. There's a lot of confusion with this. A lot of people don't even know about it, and they just teach to step anywhere. So I'll be telling you exactly what a bow stance is, what a heel stance is, what a toe stance is, what a corner bow stance is, and exactly how your body should line up whilst you're doing the various steps that we do in Tai Chi Chuan. This is all leading, of course, to the activation of Sung in your body. Sung means, well, it doesn't mean anything. There's no English translation for it. The closest we can get is to relax, but that's not really correct, and a lot of people down through the years have made mistakes because they have thought that it means to relax, and it doesn't. You do not relax when you're doing Tai Chi. You Sung. The closest example I have to Sung is one of my old Chinese masters told me that Sung is like when you bake a cake in the oven and it raises up, and then as soon as you look at it, it goes down. So this can be translated into the fact that when you do your movements, you must never feel your wrists moving. For instance, you do a move like that, sure, you can feel your wrist moving. If you do a move like that, you can't feel them moving at all, especially in wave hands like sides, but we'll get onto that in the next lesson. So you must have the structure and the movement correct before you can enter into the realm of Sung. And you can't do anything really with Tai Chi other than learn a bunch of movements unless you're sort of starting to get into the Sung area, because that's probably, in the beginning, is the most important area in your Tai Chi training. Okay, we'll go on to the various steps that we take. A bow stance, for starters, is shoulder width stance. So I'm facing the north here. Just shoulder width. One foot's out at 45 degrees. And when you take a step, that's a shoulder width on the inside of your shoulders, that is. Not on the outside, otherwise you'd be out like this and it'd be too wide. When you take a step in Tai Chi, you must never allow this left foot, for instance, if you watch it, to come across like that. You've lost your bow stance straight away. Most people do that because it's easier. What you've got to do is, for your very first step, for instance, in the Tai Chi, you turn your foot out and you place your weight on it, and then you're going to take a step forward into Pung, the posture called Pung. Now, what you do is, you've got to keep your foot on that line. And that's a correct bow stance. Now you'll notice also here, the foot is not like that. It's not straight out to the north here. It's the width of my toe. If I put that part of my toe where that part of my toe is, we get the foot turned in ever so slightly. So that it's sort of verging upon, it's not almost parallel, but it's verging upon parallel stance. So that is a correct bow stance. The knee. If you put a stick on your front toe, put your knee on it, that's the correct width. Oops. Something just fell out of my pants. Okay. So if you put your stick there like that, that's a correct bow stance. If you look down, of course, you get a parallax error. So if you look down, my knee seems to be an inch past my toe, but it's not. That's where your knee should be. Not here, or not greatly here, because you do your knees a damage there. It should be exactly there. Okay. When you step, I'll just do it this way for when you take a step, you must have yin and yang in your feet. So when you step, you must do what's called walking like a cat. See how the heel comes up? The foot is yang now. When you take a step forward, the foot curls under slightly, and so therefore it becomes yin. When you place your heel down to take your bow step, it opens again to a yang-shaped foot, and then you roll forward onto it into the bow stance. When you place your heel, you must not open it like this and then put your heel down where it is. In order to put my heel down where it is, I have to commit some weight to my front foot, you see. You mustn't. You must put, in actual fact, your heel comes back slightly, because all you're doing here is you're stepping to where your foot will go to naturally without overstepping. That's very important. So you place it there, my foot's stretched out, my leg's stretched out. Now if I just let my heel drop there, see how there's a slight backward motion. This allows me at any time to pick up my foot. That's what a cat does, you know, they're very good at that. They put down something there, they water, they have the ability to move their feet. But if I put weight onto that front foot, I've first got to sit back and then move the foot. This is not good for martial arts, not good for self-defense. So when I place my heel down, I should be able to pick it up immediately. So there's no weight on it whatsoever. Only when I feel it's safe to do so, then I can roll forward and bring the weight forward to 70-30. There's 70% of the weight on the front leg, 30% on the rear. Okay, we'll go and do a heel step now. There's four types of steps in Tai Chi. That was a bow stance that you just saw. There's really 5, because I'll do the next one first, because that's the reverse of the bow stance. So there's your bow stance. In fact, I'll do it this way, because now that I've told you about the not bringing the foot across, I can go sideways now. So there's a correct bow stance. That's just a normal front-sitting bow stance. A rear-sitting back-sitting bow stance is simply you move your weight diagonally, of course. If I moved it straight back, I'd fall over. So you move weight diagonally back onto the rear foot, and now you have 70% of the weight on the rear foot and 30% on the front foot. That's a front-sitting bow stance. That's a rear back-sitting bow stance. You should not be able to pick your front foot up because there's still 30% of the weight on it. There are times during the form where you have to, for instance, sit all of your weight back, and then you should be able to pick that front foot up. But we'll come to that later. Next step we make, better go back to the front again here because I need to tell you the width. Okay, that's a shoulder width stance, that's your bow stance. The heel stance, again, with the right foot turning out. These can be left or right, of course. The heel stance is half shoulder width, so it'll be there. So one foot will be turned out, and the heel of the left foot or the right foot, whichever way you're doing, will be straight down the middle, and it's on its heel. This time, 100% of the weight is on the back foot, the right foot in this case. That's called an empty step. Your left foot is an empty step. It's a completely yin step. You'll notice though, there's still a slight angle down here on the shin. It's not like this, or it's not completely bent. It's like so. So it's a little shorter than a bow stance, and it's still just slightly bent. That gives you the ability to, at any time, you see, you can kick from a very short distance with great power, because you've still got a little bit of load in this left foot. Okay, a toe stance is no distance between your feet. This one's turned out 45. This comes straight down, and again there's that angle down on the shin, and the ball of the foot is just touching the ground. The heel is just up off the ground. Absolutely no weight on that front foot. Doing it sideways, you'll notice again a slight angle. A lot of people do this incorrectly. They do something like that. That's incorrect. There should be a slight angle going down here on the shin, and the heel should be in line with the outside of your other heel, so there's no distance laterally between the two heels. So now we come to the single whip stance, and most people will tell you just to do a bow stance here, but that's absolutely incorrect. So there's my shoulder width stance. If I were going to do a bow step, it would be there. However, I want it to be slightly longer, and to get it slightly longer, I'll make it slightly skinnier. So the step is that for a single whip stance, I put the outside of my foot where the inside of my foot was. And now, see, my foot's slightly bent, so I can get it slightly longer. So that's your stance for your single whip. So it's a slightly skinnier stance, but not as skinny as the heel stance. I'll do it sideways. There's a bow step. You'll be. I'll just do the stance for you. So there's a bow step. It's slightly in and longer. So that's when you're doing the single whip posture, which I'll go through later on exactly how to do it. That's your single whip posture. When you're doing a single whip posture, in the last lesson I told you exactly to turn the waist to get this pulling sensation down here, to tuck the buttocks under. You can't do that with single whip because it's a slightly longer stance. So the waist will be slightly off center, so will the head. The head always points to where the coccyx is pointing, and you're looking out the corner of your eye. The eyes are most important in Tai Chi, so I wouldn't be doing any movement like a single whip stance, and later on you'll be learning with your own teacher or whatever, or through my videos, a posture called fan through back. That's all this, so that makes use of the single whip step as well. But it's the eyes, very important. See, when you're doing a single whip step or a fan through back step, the hips are slightly off center, whereas here's the front here, normally to the west with single whip. I'll do it exactly to the camera. Now this is incorrect. See how my head and my body are not in a line now. In order to line up my head and my body, because my body's pointing out this way, I have to turn my head like this. It's where my body's turning, see? But I have to see out here, so I turn my eyes to the front. And as you go through your Tai Chi training, you'll notice that it's very important where the eyes turn, because it's also, the eyes are part of your reflex system in your body. It works upon the hypothalamus gland in just behind here, P-shaped thing just in through here in your brain, which, among other things, has control over your reflexes. And we want sharp reflexes, and Tai Chi Chuan gives you these sharp reflexes by acting upon the hypothalamus through your eyes, and what your eyes do in conjunction with the movement you're making. Western science have now discovered this, and they're giving these exercises to people in sports institutes all around the world. But Tai Chi has been doing it for hundreds of years. So the eyes will be to the front. Thank you, Sam. Okay, during Tai Chi Chuan, I'm over here, by the way, with this background because the sun's coming in through one of our windows, and being such a high-tech production studio here, we have no way of stopping the sun coming in. So I'm over here because otherwise it'll put me into darkness. We normally do this when the sun's not here or in the evenings. Okay, there are many times in Tai Chi, for instance, brush knee twist step or a lot of postures where, for instance, you're doing the move and your back foot has to drag around 45 degrees in order to get into a proper bow stance, as we've just seen, because it'll start out that way and then come around, you see. The big mistake people make here is when they drag that foot, they'll drag it like this. See that? They're dragging the toe up. That's easier. It's much easier to do that than it is to do it correctly, which is keeping that little toe down. So the whole foot is flat. And what I tell people to do, if they sort of can't get that, is pick this big toe up off the ground as you do it. And that will force you to keep your little toe down on the ground as you drag your foot around. By the same token, when we do front, this is also quite important, we do, I think there's only about one time during the whole form where we actually do an unweighted turn on the front foot, for instance. Brush knee twist step. Tai Chi is a self-defense art. It's an attacking, defensive art. So we never sit back, we never go backwards. The idea is going forward. So if I were to, for instance, in brush knee twist step, sit back, then turn the foot out, then come forward, what have I done? I've wasted a whole movement. I'm not attacking anyone. By the time while I'm doing this and turning my foot out, I've been struck. So what you should be doing here is, in a correct bow stance, just turn your foot out. Absolutely no weight. Even that much is incorrect. It's got to go. Now you're going to get into trouble here with sore knees if you haven't got your weight placement correct on your front foot. If you've got your weight placement to the fore at all, then see that it's going to be very difficult for me to turn my foot. And if I'm continually doing that, I'm not only going to get a sore knee, I'm also going to get a sore ankle. But if you've got your weight, see, I can even sort of pick that front ball of the foot up slightly even, which indicates that my weight is correctly back towards the heel, in which case it's easy. There's no pressure there whatsoever to turn my foot. So that's quite important. Now, there's an old saying, classic saying in Tai Chi Chuan, especially from the old system, not the Yang Ching Fu system, but the old Yang style, that says, one of the classics simply says, nose, knee, toe. Now for years people said, what the hell is this? What it means is, you have to have your nose, your knee and your toe in alignment. Straight line. Now that's impossible if I'm doing this. That won't go, it'll go down through here, you see, if I'm standing there like this. Now how do you tell if it's in a line? You have to look at it, don't you? Only when I look at it does my nose come in line with my knee, come in line with my rear toe. Only when I'm looking back at it. So that's how you have to get nose, knee, toe in line. Now if I'm like this, incorrect, it's going like that. If I'm like this, incorrect, it's going like that. So that indicates that you have a correct bow stance with the rear knee just slightly bent, travelling out towards the big toe slightly. And then there's nose, knee and toe in a straight line. The spins on the feet. There are times when you do heel spins, for instance. That. There are times when you're doing spins on the ball of your feet, which are movements like that. Now they're pretty self-explanatory. You simply use the body to cause the movement to happen. And the leg will also be a ballast to help you get around there. When you're spinning on the ball of your foot, you'll use your body to help you get a nice gentle flow around. Okay, thank you. That's the end of lesson number 2. Next lesson we'll carry on with the activation of Sung and many other areas. Thank you.